$250 trillion. That's a rough estimate of all the wealth created by human civilization, from the first clay tablet to the last stock trade this morning. But here's what's strange. Over the last 5,000 years, more than 30 major civilizations rose on this planet. They built pyramids, minted currencies, ran stock markets, and managed payrolls bigger than most modern corporations. And then they collapsed. Almost every single one. Not because of war, not because of plague, but because they made the same financial mistake over and over again. This is the story of how money shaped the ancient world and why it still shapes yours. Around 3500 BC, in the river valleys of modern-day Iraq, something happened that changed everything. The Sumerians didn't just invent writing, they invented debt. The earliest clay tablets we've found aren't poems or prayers, they're I owe us, loan contracts, interest calculations. One tablet from around 2400 BC records a barley loan at 33% annual interest, and the penalty for late repayment was double the principal. The Sumerian word for interest, mash, literally meant calves, because just as cattle multiply over time, the Sumerians believed money should too. This is the oldest financial idea in human history, and every central bank on Earth still runs on it. At roughly the same time, Egypt was building something even more ambitious. Not just a financial system, but a state-run economy. The pharaohs didn't use money at all. They ran the largest command economy the ancient world had ever seen, taxing grain, redistributing it through temples and warehouses, and feeding a workforce of roughly 20,000 to 30,000 laborers to build the Great Pyramid. No coins, no interest rates, just centralized planning on a scale that wouldn't be seen again until the 20th century. Further east, the Indus Valley Civilization, in modern Pakistan and northwest India, developed standardized weights and measures for trade across 1,000 miles of territory. And China's Shang dynasty was casting the first bronze vessels that doubled as currency. 4 civilizations, 4 completely different financial systems. Debt-based lending in Sumer, state-controlled redistribution in Egypt, standardized trade in the Indus Valley, commodity money in China. All invented independently, all within about 1,500 years of each other. By 2000 BC, civilization had proven one thing. You can build a city without money, but you can't run an empire without it. Over the next 1,700 years, at least 15 major civilizations rose across 3 continents, and almost every one of them was built on a financial innovation. The Babylonians, under Hammurabi, created history's first commercial legal code, including rules for interest rates, contracts, and bankruptcy. The Phoenicians invented the alphabet, not for literature, but for bookkeeping. They needed a faster way to track transactions across their Mediterranean trading network. The Lydians, in modern-day Turkey, minted the first standardized coins around 600 BC, and within a century, coinage had spread across the entire Mediterranean. Then came the classical empires. Persia connected 3 continents under a single tax system and built the Royal Road, 1,700 miles of highway designed primarily for moving tax revenue from the provinces to the capital. Athens funded its golden age largely through the silver mines at Laurion, which employed over 20,000 enslaved workers. And the Maurya Empire in India ran a treasury system so sophisticated that Kautilya's Arthashastra, their economics textbook, reads like a modern manual on fiscal policy. Meanwhile, in the Americas, the Olmec and early Maya civilizations were developing their own economic systems. Cacao beans as currency, long-distance trade routes, and commodity markets that we're only now beginning to understand through archaeological evidence. 15 civilizations, one pattern. Every empire that lasted more than a few generations did so because it solved the same problem: how to collect taxes, pay soldiers, and move wealth across long distances. The ones that solved it thrived. The ones that didn't, they're the ones you've never heard of. Around 300 BC, the world entered what economists call the first era of globalization. Rome, Han China, the Parthian Empire, and the Maurya dynasty controlled most of the known world's population, and they were all connected by trade. The Roman Empire at its peak generated an estimated 20 billion sesterces in annual output, the equivalent of roughly $30 to $50 billion in today's purchasing power, depending on who you ask. 1.5% of the population controlled 20% of all income. Sound familiar? But Rome's real contribution to financial history wasn't wealth. It was the playbook for destroying it. Emperor Nero started debasing Roman coins in 64 AD, reducing their silver content to pay for wars and building projects. By the time Diocletian tried to fix the economy 2 centuries later with price controls, the denarius had lost over 90% of its original silver. Inflation was rampant, markets collapsed, and the empire never recovered. On the other side of the world, China's Han Dynasty was running a parallel experiment. State monopolies on salt and iron, government-issued currency, and eventually, under the Song Dynasty 1,000 years later, the world's first paper money. When the Ming Dynasty tried the same trick centuries after that, their paper currency collapsed so completely that China abandoned paper money for over a century. The pattern is always the same. A civilization discovers how to create money. It works brilliantly for a while. Then the government creates too much of it, and the system collapses. Between 300 BC and 1500 AD, at least 12 major civilizations followed this exact arc. Rome, Han China, the Gupta Empire, the Abbasid Caliphate, the Byzantine Empire, the Song Dynasty, the Khmer Empire, the Mali Empire, the Aztecs, the Inca. All of them, at some point, faced the same financial reckoning. 30 civilizations, 5,000 years, trillions in wealth created and destroyed. And the pattern never changes. Every great civilization follows the same financial arc: innovation, expansion, overextension, debasement, collapse. The Sumerians knew this. They literally calculated how long it took compound interest to double, 5 years, to quadruple, 10 years, to multiply 64 times, 30 years. Their scribes understood that no economy can grow at that rate forever. 5,000 years later, we still haven't learned that lesson. This channel does one thing. We open the financial books of the ancient world and translate them into modern dollars. Every empire, every currency, every mistake. Because the numbers don't lie, and they never have. Subscribe and follow the money through 5,000 years of history.